Jordan is going to be presenting on behalf of Reece, and he's going to walk us through the journey of building trust during their transition to Viva Engage from Workplace. So I know that Reece's approach is all about listening, simplifying, and committing to continuous improvement. And we hope you enjoy this behind the scenes look at how you build trust in product, process, and the team to lead a successful launch of Viva Engage. So Jordan, I'll hand over to you.
Wonderful. Give me 1 second. Bear with me. I had to switch from a Mac to a PC recently, and I have no idea what I'm doing still.
We can be patient. It's all good.
Well, like a good transition, you should be patient. Wonderful. All right. So, hi everyone. I am Jordan Gilliland, as Em just introduced me, and I'm really excited to be here today to present on behalf of Reece. And I do actually say on behalf of Reece because I actually sadly finished up with Reece last week. But both Reece and my new employer, Metro Trains, were really happy for me to come and speak to you today. So I give a big thank you to both of them. Where do we begin? I am sure many of you online were the same as what we were at Reece when we woke up to that overnight email last year telling us that Meta was closing down Workplace. It was a big resounding, excuse my language, oh shit moment for everyone. And we had Teams messages that were just flying amongst all the comms teams, all of our leaders, as we tried to figure out like what this would mean for us, what it meant for the business, and probably the most importantly, what it meant for our people. In a moment, I'll also explain why the shutdown was such a big deal for Reece, but rest assured, we knew that there was going to be some serious work involved in transitioning across from Workplace to Engage. But after the initial moment of crisis, we started to look around it as a bit more of an opportunity. So after almost like 8 years of having Workplace, we were going to be able to make a change that we had kind of talked about and been like, oh my God, how amazing would this be to start fresh and all the stuff that we've done. We could burn down the building and make a brand new one. But we just couldn't because it was so ingrained in the business. We're quite lucky that Reece has this really amazing use of Workplace that we, people would almost be jealous of, but it made it really difficult. But here we were with this fresh start, the chance to create a platform that worked for our people as they were right now. And we were able to use it for the learnings of what we had over the last 8 years of Workplace. And then separate to that, we saw it as a great opportunity in our comms team to build trust. By building trust on the platform and then us launching it and our people feeling like they were ready to literally engage from day one, we knew that we could overall build trust in our team and just help our personal brand as an internal department, which is a big bonus for everyone. So I'll give you a few fast facts about Reece for those who might not know who we are. So it was founded more than 100 years ago when H.J. Reece started selling hardware supplies from the back of his truck in Victoria. And it's now one of the biggest suppliers of plumbing, waterworks, and HVAC products in Australia, New Zealand, and the United States. So across the business, there's more than 9,000 employees, and around 6,500 of those are in ANZ. And with ANZ as well, there's around 670 branches, give or take, on it depending on the week. As well as there's more than 10 distribution centres, and there's a Melbourne support centre, as well as different, training rooms around the place. There's different people everywhere. There's quite a diverse workforce and quite diverse about the audiences that you're trying to target. So if you're a block watcher, you actually might primarily know Reece as a provider of bathroom and kitchen supplies to kit out your beautiful new bathroom, but it's actually a surprisingly small part of Reece. So there's the bread and butter of it, which is the plumbing aspect, which is the bit behind the wall that you probably never see. But as you can see here, there's so many departments depending upon where we are. There's volume builders in our on-site business. There's HVAC. There's refrigerants in your Actrol business. There's irrigation and pools. There's a whole bunch of different departments, and they all have these different comms that need to go to them. And yes, there is these specific versions that we can go over, all of Reece. But there's a lot of audiences that we have to target, and there's a lot of different comms that we need to get across. And I'll give you a little bit of scope now. So this is our Workplace activity snapshot in 2024, and it gives a little bit of a scope about like how big Workplace was for the business. How exactly was it used? It was a bit of a catch-all. So with such a long history in being one of the only consistent tools that we'd had between other digital channel transitions, it was a huge amount of activity. So from news to sharing to publishing knowledge, both formal, peer-to-peer. We had pipelines set up for the regions to talk to each other from our branches. It was our leader communications. It was informal conversations. It was just sharing photos of pets of Reece, which is a surprisingly big part, as well as the Reece memes page. It seriously was used massively to connect and communicate. And you can just see how big that was. 216,000 posts and replies last year, and almost 80% of our people were active at least once a month. And critically, our most active group of users were what we call the heart of Reece, which is our branch managers. And essentially what this all means is that it was just a crucial part of how Reece worked, and it was embedded as one of our primary tools that we got information done. And you can kind of start to get a picture about why getting a transition was so important and why we kind of had to do this thing to build the trust of the business to make sure that we were doing the right thing. So that's a bit of a snapshot, right? We got given this timeline. Everyone got given this timeline who had this journey with us. We knew we had to do it. We just had to do the hard work. And the first step was really understanding our people. So internally, we went out, we did a channel audit. We went out and asked our branch managers, we went out and asked assistant managers, region leaders, how they were using the channels. Not what we thought they were using it, but how they were using it. And we asked them a lot about what they liked and what they disliked. And safe to say, it was a little bit shocking, a little bit eye-opening, as a little bit of a confronting thing when you think someone's using a tool in a certain way and they're like, we don't ever look at that. So we quickly learned what channels were being used in different ways than we had expected. And the things we thought were universal, turns out that sometimes they actually weren't quite so universal. And we started to kind of be like, no, there's only one way to do this. We have to be asking our people what they want and what's going to work for them. We can't sit there in, the ivory tower and make it for our network. We have to make sure we're doing it the right way. So we created our champion network to gather all the info we needed to make the transition work. And we actually used our Swoop friends for this one. So we used data to figure out who was posting the most, who was getting lots of engagement, and who were our kind of super users who were like, these people are using the tool. How can we make sure that other people also want to use the new tool? And I actually think this is like one of the most critical parts of the transition working well, was that when we were looking for what the product would be and how we're going to transition, we kind of knew that it was going to work for them, and we listened to them the whole way through. And it's something, honestly, I encourage everyone, if you're not doing it, literally pick up a phone call and ask someone, your end user, what they want or what you're trying to implement in your new features, the ideas that you want, because a 5-minute phone call will save you months of putting something in and then realizing it was completely the wrong option. And trust us, we've all been there. So sense check it 100%. So we did that. And we got this kind of scary big picture here of what people like, what people don't like, and what they did. And so we got this information. We're like, all right, we need to use this. And you can see a couple of few call outs here. So, one of the really big ones that they didn't like was notifications, volume, noise. But one of the big things they really did like is that it connected them to the wider Reece team, and they could kind of connect across all the people in ANZ. So they felt like it was one really big family, one really big team, no matter where they were across the country. And it's this feeling that made you feel like, you were this team first approach, which is one of our big values that we kind of live at Reece. And I think the most important part, though, is that they told us exactly what we did think, is that they use it to get their work done. It was a crucial part of the thing, so we have to make sure that we're doing this right. And the other thing that isn't here in this kind of list, but something that we were told a lot, was that they didn't want to feel like there was a barrier they had to break down. They felt like they wanted to walk in on day one. They felt like they knew what they were doing, and they felt like it was kind of almost comfortable. They felt like it was something that they felt familiar with. And when you're transitioning from something like Workplace, which is quite obviously, Facebook in disguise, it was not an easy task to kind of do. So we're like, okay, there's going to have to be a lot of groundwork to make this feel right and have everyone on board and feel like they can trust that we're going to do the right thing here. So like I said, they essentially found those 3 areas that we were able to get down. So we saw that they used to get their jobs done. We saw it that they use it to connect with other people and Reece as a business. And they use it for knowledge, both informal and formal. And so after quite a few vendor discussions, drum roll, and no surprise to anyone from this audience, we said goodbye to Workplace and we said hello to Engage. which is how our campaign was say goodbye to Workplace, say hello to Engage. And we did pitch some stuff about, let's get engaged and some wedding stuff. And I wanted to send out like a ring pop to everyone, but apparently that's quite expensive, but it is. So what does this mean for our people and how we kind of started to well, it meant simplified communication and, like I said, a team first approach for our communications, which, like I said, key Reece value, but it also meant the blank slate. We could create something from scratch. We weren't carrying any legacy content over with us, which was a really big decision. It was all going to be fresh, fantastic. And as a bonus on top of all of that, Microsoft integrations. So how good is that? Like, our people were able to access it wherever they want, use the tools they were going to have to use anyway to get their work done. And the cross-platform collaboration could be used to enhance the channel. And it's actually just got only better over time. So I don't know if people are using Copilot and Engage at the moment, but we recently went out and we talked to our region leads about how they could use Copilot to, enhance the way that they're looking at their region pipelines within Engage. And so like stuff like that has been a really great offering that we'll be able to kind of sell and give trust to that product. So we kind of figured out, okay, well, we're going to have Engage. So what we did is we defined our internal digital channels into these simple streams that we were kind of being able to sell the dream with, if you want to say. So we were able to kind of sit there and go, well, if we're going to have Engage, let's give these channels and we can push back on spaces that people think they might need because we have it in other spaces. So for example, anyone who used the knowledge library on Workplace, we were able to push back when someone said, well, what about having a knowledge library? Why aren't we going to have a product with that? Because we could say, well, guess what? SharePoint is going to be where you store all of your knowledge, your long-term knowledge. And so we created a really simple way that we could sell it to our people. Work, store, share. So work is where they were going to, chat, get the meetings done in. SharePoint, which you'll see here is called Brick, which is the Reece Information Center, was where they were going to store their long-term knowledge. And Engage was where they're going to share it all. And it allowed us to kind of, like I said, really bucket in and say, well, you don't need this, you need this. This is where everything's going to be. So we did this, we figured out our channels, we figured out what our platform was going to be. There was 3 areas that we then needed to build our trust in to make sure that our transition was going to be a success. So those transitioned here. So obviously, you can't launch without the buy-in and a top-down approach. So we knew that if we were to get all of these people on board, and probably in this order, we'd have a positive flow and effect to the next group. And then by doing all that, they're going to trust us and they're going to get in there day one and it was going to be a success. So our first one, our leaders, and particularly our operational leaders who use Workplace as an important tool to share network information and, updates, they were naturally kind of very hesitant. But having done the groundwork with our network champions, as well as being in consultation with the leaders really early, it meant that they trust that we had done the right product. And we had chosen a product that was going to work for them day dot. And we'll admit, had a bit of a close relationship with our general managers who were really prepared to roll up the sleeves and really own it and roll it out to the network. And they really helped deliver us on what to expect from Engage into their ops teams. So we presented at internal leadership conferences to set the scene. We set our SLT and our operational leaders up really early in an early adopters group on Engage for anyone else who's on so they can get used to it. We touched base in leader briefings. We were giving them go live readiness checks in the week leading up. There was tons of touch points and no one was missed. So no one missed out the sessions. And these were all opportunities so that they could ask questions and that they were comfortable on launch day. And it sounds like it was a lot, and it really was a lot when you reflect upon it, but they were really ready and they understood their role when it came to D-Day. Their success early on of creating the groups and enrolling everyone in it meant that there was nothing that they actually had to do except get in there and make it. So we had their pipeline groups created for them and auto-enrolled depending upon where their branch was. So they didn't have to do anything. There was no adding of people. There was no adding of teams. It was super simple and they were going to go from day one. And they really came to the party. They actually role modeled, they led the rollout, they owned the community, they owned the content. But most of all, they were just ready to post. They were just posting on day one. They were putting things in and commenting because they had got familiar and they were across it. So great, our leaders were on board. Our support centers and our content contributors were next. And Engage was the primary tool at Reece for sharing information. So in our support centers, we have lots of people that we would call content contributors. So people like our marketing, our merchandising, and our people experience or tech teams. So we felt it was important that we got them moving and comfortable before the launch because we wanted them to be populating Engage from day one, getting in there. and making sure it felt like it was, familiar. So in the course of 2 weeks, we held kickoff presentations with every single one of these groups. We had about 10 of them across the business. And we showed them, the background, and we showed them how to use it, but we also told them how to kind of do some of the stuff that they might want to do. So the moderation or reports or admin privileges and groups. And we just ran through what they would have, as well as one of the big things we did, which was merging and removing groups, which was a little bit controversial because we cut down from something like, I think we had like 8,000 groups when we left Workplace to something around 1,600, which still sounds a lot, but across the pipelines, it's not as bad as it sounds, trust me. So we used an opportunity to run them down. We also gave them best practices about how to run their comms, which was really well received. And then we got them on early access around 3 weeks before our launch date. And we told them to double post everything from Workplace to Engage, which meant that we had that overlap time and it felt alive from day one. And the one thing that maybe some people might overlook, we also made sure that our tech support team was ready to go for day one as well. So if service desk was getting phone calls about them, they were able to at least give them a decent response or refer them on to us where we could give them a more comprehensive look at them Engage. And lastly, was our network, who actually felt pretty good though, because our leaders have been taken on the journey. So they were ready to come. And if I'm really honest, they actually kind of had to use Engage to get their work done. So all we had to do was make sure that they were ready to buy in, and they were. So critically, I guess what we really needed them to understand was why Reece was transitioning to Engage and what was in it for them. So they could be supportive of it, and they could kind of understand why we'd streamlined and simplified that experience. And so we needed them to know how to use it. We needed them how to set up and manage the settings, how to reduce their noise and notifications. And we were able to achieve that because our leaders understood it all. And then we're able to back it up by our goodbye comms across all of our channels. And they're all ready to go and switch over dates. And then our launch was quick. It was swift. It was a secret everyone knew was coming. We posted on Workplace and we said, bye-bye, we're off, say hello to Engage. And we turned our Workplace on. We turned Engage on and Workplace off into read-only on the exact same day. So there was no way that people could post. Every group had a notification that said, come find us on the new group over here on Engage. And it went really well. There was almost no hiccups. People got around it really quickly. Their leaders were able to point them in the right direction for any issues that they had, and they felt very comfortable. And there was a really good amount of trust. Like I said, trust that we had covered any problems, trust that we'd hit the ground running. And we had fun with it, which is awesome. So you can see here on our right, like one of my favorite internal posts was the everyone loves a good mystery, where we encouraged people to put a face to their account. And it was a playful post and it spoke to our internal voice. But the best part was that people were sitting there asking who was the face under the bag. And people were tagging people in it, making jokes. And to be honest, we didn't have the heart to tell them that it was a stock image, that we'd photoshopped the bag over. But, there was some people who looked dangerously close to Bagman. Anyway, and another great interaction. So I did mention earlier, we had our Reece memes page, which is like a fantastic Workplace page that everyone gets involved with and makes memes about the business. And there was so many RIP memes about Workplace, and I even got into it and I photoshopped or edited our other comms advisor who was turning the switch off on Workplace and put a video of JD from Scrubs turning the power off in the hospital that signaled the end of the Scrubs TV show. So, it feels great when you're sitting there getting a couple of hundred likes on a post once instead of posting someone else's post out there. So it was great. We had fun. It was, it was good. It was a warm feeling for us. And we continue to innovate. So we've always taken on feedback from the network and our leaders and what they want to see in groups that they think will help them, or better ways to use the platform to get noise and information. And this has built trust in the team. So our people feel heard. And even if we can't make the change they want, we make sure that we have the two-way communication to ensure them that we've listened and we're looking for a solution or raising with people who might be able to make it happen. And I know is the thing, everyone wants to see a result, how we've done. And the easiest metric that I can give you from how we've gone from day dot to 6 months down the track is what we would call like our engagement score internally. And what we call that is 80 posts viewed a month for all registered users, which is a number that we believe represents what they need to get their work done. So when we originally started, we were sitting around 56%, from all the people who send these 80 posts from all of our registered users. And that's not active users, that's like it's registered, so slightly different. We've gone up to 68% when I last saw it from October. So really great result. And it kind of just shows the continued, hustle or improvement and continuing to make it part of it has been a really big part of kind of continue on this journey with it. And I was quite really proud considering the diverse workforce and some of the people who won't be able to log in, like, supply chain or that kind of stuff, distribution centers, things, and really excited about that. And I think so I would love to be on the panel later today, but I'm available, can't do it. So I know some of the things I would love to talk about and would have loved to talk about in this panel. I kind of thought I might just pull out really quickly, and sorry, Emma, if I might just be dragging slightly over here.
No, go for
Some
it.
quick tips and tricks. I don't know, some nuggets and stuff along the journey that I thought maybe some people might be able to implement, Engage. Most of us are transitioned across, but some of this stuff I think you can probably do for businesses who are looking to kind of enhance their Engage journey a little bit more. So I think the first one would maybe be, don't be afraid to turn things off. I know some of the things that we turned, so we turned off like storyline, for example, as we thought it would muddy the waters. And we just didn't think it would be used. And to be honest, it was the right decision, and it's something we still stand by. But I think sometimes we get into a rut that we think maybe we need to use something just because it's there. And so I think turning things off is great. And the same applies to groups. So we turned off the ability for anyone to create their own groups, because like I said before, 8,000 groups in the day was insane. And I'm sure I'm not alone with that journey. So I think we really had to think about like what group exists and what purpose it has. And could multiple groups be condensed into one group, allowing like a single channel of truth? Or could even like a group be completely deleted? And it really helped us go a long way to cutting down the noise. If everything was in one group and someone could go to just one place to find their information. The other one would be, I think if you wanted to enhance Engage, one of the big parts of Reece is that it's part of the rhythm and routine of the business. So I think if you want people to come to Engage, it kind of always needs to be like a carrot. But it's unsustainable to kind of keep using like competitions or asking for like photos or that kind of stuff. There's just like, it's an unsustainable way to continue to have people do it. They need to have a reason to come back. And Engage was just part of the way that people got their work done at Reece and operations team. And, like I said earlier, we created their pipeline pages where they post their weekly updates and they share their news, but they also go there to share like the publicly shout outs for their teams, or they get questions back from customer queries. And it's not as easy for like our support centers who might need not so much work, Engage to get their job done. But we encourage them to just hop on for 5 minutes a day, make it part of their rhythm and routine, because if they understand what the network is talking about and what the team are that they're supporting, they're going to be able to do a better part of their job because they're going to better understand the problems and the issues. So we'd be suggesting to them, like I said, to make it part of their rhythm and routine as well. And lastly, keep it simple. It's the Reece value that's like kind of, there's a shining light. Keep it simple was the Reece value that we always stand by in comms. And essentially, it's you can't hope that people will know what to do. So if we can make it as easy as possible from our comms teams for our end users, it's going to be perfect. So we always say, teach them to fish, but we kind of need to give them like the right tackle box first. So like I said, we set them up in groups from day one, we adjusted all the way through, and we just made sure that it felt comfortable for them. I guess the kind of the last thing as I wrap up is I want to give a little shout out and again to Swoop for something that we use all the time, which is the golden ratio. Which is, the one post you reply as 3 likes to make sure you get really good engagement across your channels. And I will be really honest with them. I don't want people to post once for every like 2 replies or 3 likes. So I might mute them because that would be a lot of voice going on there. But we always used it all the time. And I think it's a really great way to tell people that they need to be posting replies and likes just as much as they're kind of posting themselves. And the other thing that another shout out to Swoop, I'm just going to keep saying it. Something we really liked is the personas. Something that really got our leaders going, especially from an SLT perspective, was the fear of being an observer or a broadcaster. I don't know why, for some reason, that was something that's really like stuck with them. And when we said that we don't want you to be like a broadcaster, they were like, oh my God, we don't want to be a broadcaster. And so we suddenly were seeing SLT, they were hopping on, they were commenting the post, they were personally responding to issues, and we're saying, oh my God, they're just using Engage on their own behalf, because they don't want to be a broadcaster. They want to be an observer. They want to be someone who's going to be in there and kind of have like that right feeling. So that's kind of it. Like I said, it was a bit of a journey for Engage, and it's something I think you take a lot of like experience out of, but it's one that by doing it and kind of keeping our team along the whole journey, we're able to build a reputation of the comms team to be, I would say, more than like comms. We kind of were part of a trusted strategic partner for our business. And I think for anyone who's considering the switch or thinking of highlighting, their networks, there's probably hopefully something in there that you might be able to take away from that. Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jordan. And thank you so much for taking time out as well to present this on behalf of Reece. And I could actually see like a few people who I know have recently moved across from Workplace to Viva Engage. So I think your presentation, Jordan, I think, great reassurance that you're able to almost like build up that momentum again and achieve really great things. I'll give you one maybe like quick fire question. Oh, sorry,
Go for
I
it.
might just have to grab someone on mute. Quick fire question. Any pressure from leaders for using post on behalf of features or getting comms to post on behalf for them?
No, they actually really like it. So we have almost no negative feedback whatsoever about it. So we obviously from Workplace, it was so easy. You could literally go in there and you could post on behalf and they would never even know. With Engage, you obviously have to set up delegate access, a couple extra steps. But from I think from a perspective of our leaders, they love it because they're always so much on the go, especially if you're someone like Reece, who has so many operational leaders who could be anywhere across the stage at any moment. If they kind of buzzed us in and said, hey, we need to share this update, I need to be in here, we were able to get them to go across it and just post on their behalf. And they were like, this is the best thing in the world. We love this. We trust that what you're going to do is going to be the right thing. I think the only one thing that I would say for that is because there is the extra steps, be quite proactive of it. So we went through and we added all of our SLT for all of our comms team who were going to be posting on this. And as mind you, we have a small comms team, so it was quite easy. There wasn't, 70 people posting on behalf of one CEO. But we also went along and had a look at who else might be one of those people who might need to be there for like a crisis comm. So we had our operation leaders, some of our region leaders that we knew were in, North Queensland, who might be particularly, cyclonic or something like that. And they kind of trusted us and they understood the process and felt that they could give us the access to do that.
Fantastic. And thank you again, Jordan. We really appreciate you sharing these insights.